Yeah, like Dan said, I'm Tim. I play in the band Rise Against, as some of you guys know. You guys know who Rise Against is? Some of you. I'm sure some of you don't know, and that's even cooler, actually. Sometimes I like to introduce everything. On my way here, I have to tell this story because it was so funny. On my way here, my wife was sharing the story with me about how she was talking to a friend of hers who was the mother of 2 children, and one of the children said, "Mommy, what's a vegetarian?" And the child had no idea. And so the mom said, "Well, this is what a vegetarian is," and she went into, that this is a vegetarian is someone who doesn't eat meat. And the other kid who was a little bit older said, "Oh, well then what's a virgin?" And the mom, just breathed in and said, "Well, okay," and the kid was old enough, so I was like, "Well, then this is what a virgin is." And the kid said, "Oh, I meant vegan." I thought that was an interesting sort of way to make sure you know what you're talking about. But, alright, so, yeah, I came here, I signed up to do this, and I don't really, as sly as I don't like speak, you know what I mean? I'm more used to screaming the microphones than I am to just simply talking to them. And I remember when Dan first hit me up to do it, I was like, I don't know, Dan, I could easily come there and maybe play, but I don't know if I can really speak. He's like, "No, I think you'd be great." And so I emailed my friend Poulin, and Poulin works for PETA, and he's been on our tours many times, and I've seen him talk to lots of people. So I said, "Poulin, I'm going to go speak at Veg Fest. What should I do? What give me some advice?" He sent me an email that said 2 things. He said, 1, don't swing the mic. And he said, 2, don't jump into the crowd. Those are the 2 things that really, anything else you do should be all right. So I can't promise that I won't jump into the crowd, so you guys just be ready, because I don't know what I'm going to do. So let me get into the band. Our band is all vegetarian. Everyone in the band is vegetarian. And it's funny because when I say that to people and people hear that, they immediately think that it's some sort of prerequisite. It's like you had to show up to an audition, and if you weren't vegetarian, we sent you back. And oddly enough, it really wasn't like that. It was just a sort of happy coincidence. Everybody in the band is vegetarian. We all went vegetarian at different times in our lives. Sometimes simply just being around vegetarians and the vegans in the band, you just kind of like, you get introduced to the lifestyle, and that's the way it really happened, which I think is something that's really indicative of the way that we sort of run our band, is that we don't try to force anything on anybody, our fans, our crew, anybody. It's like when you come to these things on your own, that's when they're really going to last and they're going to survive. I think that as a kid, I had a lot of things kind of shoved down my throat, and I think that any kid, you grow up, you have teachers and you have employers and people that are kind of shoving things down your throat, and your immediate reaction is to spit it back up. And so when we were in a position to be of any sort of influence on people, we knew that we wanted to do it where it was sort of just an example. We didn't want to shove anything down anyone's throat. We just wanted to let them know what we were and what we do. And if you're into it, that's cool. And if you're not into it, then that's cool too. So it's something that everyone just kind of came into. We've had crew members join our band and join us, like a sound guy or a guitar tech, who aren't vegetarian and they are vegan and they become into it. Or we have crew members who join and they're not into it, and they leave the crew eventually, and we still have them and they still eat meat. That's just the way it goes. But I just want to make it known that it's not like this prerequisite. You must be vegetarian. That's not the way it was, or the way it is. Let's see. Oh, I already talked about that. Sorry if I rely on my notes a lot, because I don't do this. So I'm going to talk to you about when I became vegetarian, which is around the age of 17. Is anybody 17 in here? Any 17-year-olds? 17. Yeah. So 17. I was in high school. Prior to that, I was an all-American meat eater, which I think is an important thing to realize. And something I saw, Dan Shannon, who is from PETA, who's here today. He's going to speak later, and I strongly recommend you checking out his talk. I saw him speak a month ago, and he mentioned this, that people think vegetarians are sort of like this, or vegans are like this alien race, that you were raised in a commune in this utopian world. You don't even know what meat is, you know what I mean? And therefore it's something that's so foreign to them. And I think that, for 17 years of my life, I ate meat every day of my life. That was my thing. I didn't even see a problem with it. I was raised on McDonald's. You know what I mean? I'm one of 4 kids, and my mom, she took us to McDonald's, and we loved it. that was our treat, you know? And it's so twisted now to think that that was our treat and that's how much we loved it. And, you know, I think of McDonald's when I was a kid was, and probably is today, is still like a top birthday destination for parties. Does anybody have a party as a kid at McDonald's? Yeah, I did. Yeah. It's like, I have pictures of it, like, I love it. That was the greatest thing. I think and that's indicative of like the sort of the lie or the half-truth. It's hard to say parents lie to their kids, but it's sort of the half-truths that we're told as kids that we don't really realize that this sort of dream birthday is really actually a nightmare for a lot of innocent animals. But so I grew up in Chicago. I remember it was McDonald's and hot dogs. That's what I was raised on pretty much. My dad was all about hot dogs, and if you live in Chicago, hot dogs are like, you know, it's the pastime, you know. And so if my dad got stuck cooking, he cooked hot dogs for us. If we went out on weekends, we went to every single Vienna beef institution and we found the greatest hot dog. You know, we went to the Balkans, we ate hot dogs, and all that kinds of stuff, you know. And I think that throughout your childhood and your adolescence, you're constantly hitting these sort of crossroads in your life. You're making choices. You know, at one point I decided to pick up a guitar instead of, you know, join the football team. You know what I mean? And those things kind of made up. Not that you can't play guitar and be on the football team, but I'm just saying those are the sort of choices that I made in my life. And though I can pinpoint, like I said when I was 17, I could pinpoint a time in my life that I went vegetarian, I can't pinpoint a time in my life where I was taught to eat meat. You know, I mean, that was such a young age. It was such something that I was born into, and so I can't go back to that. But I remember, and I have a daughter now. She's running around here somewhere at unsafe speeds, and I know, and I'm sort of like going. She's 3 now, so the last 3 years, I've sort of witnessed all those like crossroads that she's kind of taking. I remember one of them was I was in a sign language class with her, and we were just trying to, you know, increase her development. We took a sign language class, and it was like I'm sitting there on the floor with a whole bunch of dads and moms and their kids, and they came to the sign for chicken. They came to the sign for chicken, and I don't remember what it was, but it was a sign for chicken. And one of the moms said, "Well, you know, is that the chicken that in the barn, or is that like the chicken that we eat?" And this mom said that, and I was like, wow. And I realized I was kind of witnessing one of those moments. And oddly enough, I learned that morning that there are 2 different signs. You know, there are 2 different signs. There's a sign for the chicken in the barn. There's a different sign for the chicken that we eat. And all the parents were like, phew. You know, they're just like, all right, we don't want to go into that.